The Nifty Show.
Welcome to the Nifty Show, the world's first NFT podcast. I am your solo host for the time being, Royale, and I'm here, surprise, surprise, to talk about games and Web3. Obviously, we are all putting forward so much effort trying to figure out how to bring adoption and Web3 based benefits to gamers across the world. It's such a massive industry that is just waiting to experience the true ownership and the technological benefits of blockchain and Web3 and NFTs as a whole. And today we're going to be discussing a very ambitious project by a very long running game publishing company. I have here with me the VP of product for Kongregate. How are you doing today, George?
Hi, Riles. Doing good. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, so tell me how Kongregate. Well, first off, let's catch up our audience because I know what Kongregate is. A lot of our listeners and viewers probably do not.
Sure. So, Kongregate is a 16-year-old video game company that it started as a portal for browser games, right? Back in 2006. Then, where indie developers could kind of put their games up in the web, and the user base, the community was able to play those games, and the developers will get some rewards depending on how well the games did, right? Then Kongregate transitioned into the mobile world, right, with the bringing of the iPhone, the app stores, etc. And we started to publish some of those games and helping out those developers to put those games in mobile, right? And in those times we developed things such as Adventure Capitalist, Adventure Communist, which are like kind of genre-defining games in the idle space, for example. We developed Animation Throwdown, right? Published things like that. Beat Heroes, Battle Hem, uh, very interesting mix between idle games and card games and RPGs. And the last 5 years, the company kind of transitioned to do its own games, right? Before we were publishing other people's games, now we were making our own. And in the last 2 years, we started to, play a little bit with blockchain. So few people know, but we actually had a game with NFTs more than a year ago. And where basically every account that was created was a wallet. That was kind of a partnership that we did with Forte, kind of an experiment, right? And it went so well that we decided to really jump into this in 2022 with two big projects. One is the BitVerse, which is the one that I'm leading currently, and the other one is a revamp of our platform. We want to kind of update our Web2 platform and make it part of the Web3 world. Kind of try to play that role of, okay, let's bring developers that want to do Web3 games into a common place so people can go and play those there, and we can help them out. But today we're here to talk about BitVerse.
Yeah, so to translate some of that, when you hear the word Kongregate, just think enormous, long-running browser gaming presence, tons of game publishing, huge for indie development as a whole. I'm personally a fan. I've been a fan for a long time. But now that you're taking this much larger step into Web3 and NFTs, can you talk about what the key concept behind BitVerse is? What makes this different from the other Web3 games that we've been seeing?
So I think there's a lot of differentiating factors between us and other games, right? First and foremost, you mentioned it. We have Kongregate behind this, right? So it's a project that it's funded, right? We made the pitch at the end of 2021 to our executive team, and we got the kind of thumbs up to go with this for 2 or 3 years, right? So we have the means to build it without having to raise any extra capital. So that's one thing. Second thing is that we're trying to do this thinking about it more from the standpoint of game first, right? So we're more about, okay, let's build the games and let's make sure that we make this fun first, and then we think about all the play and own, play to earn components we bring those over a little bit later, right? So that's why, for example, we're starting with NFT Heroes, right? That's the first NFT that we are putting for sale. We have 2005 a collection of 2,500 going out tomorrow, and the idea is that hero that you're going to bring to the BitVerse, that NFT hero, is going to be interoperable between all the games of the BitVerse because we're creating a metaverse of games, right? Different genres, but using all kind of the Bit Hero's heart to feel them, right? In terms of the art style and the world building and all those things. So we're making a play on interoperability and having a fun and good experience, right? From that standpoint, also 3 of those games are going to be playable this year, right? We have the original Beat Heroes game, which was launched in 2016. We are retrofitting that game, and then we're launching Arena, which is a battle royale type of game. So think of Fortnite, think of Brawl Stars on mobile, right? And then afterwards, we're going to be launching Beat Heroes Runner, which is more like a Super Mario where your character doesn't stop running and you have to have gigantic reflexes to dodge and kill your enemies. So those 3 games are coming up this year.
I think that
Recapping, sorry.
I think that Mr. George Ezquerra is being a little bit humble in the presentation of this because this is some historical stuff, and listeners and viewers that are familiar with who I am are going to recognize the vision that he's putting forward, where you can take a single NFT into multiple games because that's never been able to happen before. That's something that I've been working on personally in a similar project, but I don't see it as being in competition. And one of the reasons why this project caught my eye is because I really want to see this happen. I want to see singular assets give gamers more power and have more utility and be totally focused on the game. So that's really really amazing. Now, do you happen to have a timeline for when each of the 3 games will come out this year?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, RPG is already out there. It's going to get updated so people can play with their NFTs by the end of October. Uh, Arena, which is the battle royale, should be coming also by the end of October. So the idea is that our ideal scenario is we will launch the game Beat Heroes Arena at the same time that we will enable the NFT functionality on Beat Heroes Quest, which is the RPG, right? So people can start seeing their NFTs being interoperable between those 2 games.
Now, this may be a lot to ask given that you're already promising 3 games for this year, but do you already have other games in development or on the drawing board, or are we just starting with these 3 for now?
We're starting with these 3, and to be honest, I had hoped that we would have more time during this quarter to think about next year's games. But between the pre-sale and 3 games, I think I was a little bit ambitious. But we do have, at the very least, like 2 prototypes right now. We have a prototype for a card game, CCG, and a prototype for a tag of war game. So any of those could come up next year.
Awesome. Now, in terms of how this relates to the rest of Web3, being able to plug one NFT into multiple games is amazing. It's historical. I think that there's a ton of benefit in it. Where do the play to own and play to earn components come into this?
That's a great question. So play to own comes again. So we talked about the central NFT that you can play on multiple games. What if I told you that also all the progress that you're gonna make with that NFT is gonna be yours, right? What if I told you like, hey, if you level this guy up to level 50 or 100 or 200 in the RPG game, that's gonna go with it. If you collect these items, that's gonna go with it. And that's where I expect a lot of the play to own value is gonna come up for people on the hero side, right? If you put let's say 100 days of gameplay into your hero, well, that's 100 days of gameplay. That's worth a lot of time for somebody else, right? The same way that if you put any money into it, right, because there's going to be cosmetics, there's going to be things that you can purchase as well for it. Like that money goes into your NFT hero, right? So that's one side. Another side is the Bit Pixel token, which is coming up in the first half of 2023. And the idea is that that is a meta hard currency that players can use across all the games to buy stuff, right? Purchase things. And that's also what we're going to use to reward people through tournaments, bets, all sorts of events, a season pass, like everything that you can imagine. We're gonna throw at the games, and we're gonna let people earn that way, right? There's gonna even be drops in the game. So, for example, imagine you're playing the runner game, right, which is like a little bit more like a platformer. You're jumping here and there, trying to run away from the boss that is chasing you, dodging enemies, and there's gonna be a drop of big pixel in one of the lanes. So, are you quick enough to grab it? Well, things like that, right? That's where the player and component is going to come in. Yes, we'll have staking, but as I mentioned, for us, it's a lot about playing and having fun. And that's the way that you're going to maximize these things, right? And finally, the third component is what we're calling the BitForge, right? So as you play the game, the different games, you're going to collect objects and items, right? Those items at first are not going to be NFTs themselves. Yes, they're going to be stored with your main NFT, but you're not going to be able to sell them individually, right? Or trade them. Now, when we add the BitForge, what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to take one of those items, apply some BitPixel to it, and you're going to be able to create an NFT version of that item, right? Meaning that if you got, let's say, our kind of highest rarity in our games is called the Ancient. The Ancient equipment is like the most powerful that players can get, right? So if you get an Ancient, right, at first it's not going to be an NFT. And we will never sell an Ancient ourselves. Like if you get an Ancient as a player and then you convert it into an NFT, right, that immediately creates a ton of value for the player. And I'm sure, again, people will be willing to get that from your hands.
Now, I did a little bit of exploring. I checked out the pre-sale that you launched for the hero portal reservations, where people could reserve to purchase a hero, and the price point on those got pretty darn high. I think it went up to over 1,000 USD. Now, what
Mhm.
do you see as being the primary entry point for gamers that are getting into this?
That's a great question. So we did put a lot of thought into pricing here, right? We not only looked at other projects, right? That wasn't. Yeah, it was good to know what other projects were doing, but that wasn't the main factor when it came down to pricing. For us, what we tried to do is to offer something to almost every type of user that we could imagine, right? So if you're just a player, you're mostly interested in I want to own my NFT, I want to get access to the display to earn features, and I want to get access to the interoperability, right? So progress interoperability and and features. Like just go for the common portal, right? That's going to give you a common character for $99, and that should be really good in order to enjoy all the universe. Not only this year with 3 games, but with the other 5 or 7 that we will end up having in a couple of years. Now, if you're more into the perks, because each one of these NFTs comes with perks, right? And those perks get better as the rarity goes up. So if you're interested, for example, in playing the RPG, right? Getting a rare is a great idea because it has a perk that basically boosts your progression by 50%. It increases your item find, your chance to get familiars, your XP collection, your gold collection by 50%, right? And that's something that we charge usually like $30 a month to the existing players in the game, right? So if you think about that, that has inherently a value of 360 over a year, right? If you play this more than that, you already break even, right? Then the rare, the epic, sorry, no, the epic, the mythic, and the epic, legendary, and mythic characters then are more a little bit about how interested you are in the exclusive NFT mounts and pets that are going to go with them, and how much of a spender you are, right? Because in our games, again, as I mentioned, you can spend for things, and another differentiating factor is that we are using hybrid models. So that means that we are mixing free to play with play unknown with play to earn. Like we're putting all together in the back, right? So there's microtransactions that can happen in the game. If you're gonna buy gems, so to speak, to buy other things, right, in the game, you're gonna get a boost. If you have a, let's say, if you have a mythic character, you get a 25% extra on top of anything you spend, right? So then it comes down to like, how much are you planning to spend on the game? How long are you planning to play? How much of a collector you are, right? For example, there's only 63 mythics out there, and they have like the singular kind of array of visual components that is the most exclusive across all the heroes in the BitVerse, right? So again, that depends a little bit more on whether you're a collector, how much you plan to spend on the games, how long do you plan to play with us, right? And how much do you want to support us? So I think we have a price point for everybody. Obviously, people who don't want to spend anything but want to enjoy the BitVerse, as I mentioned, can play the games as a free-to-play player. They won't get access to the play to own and play and earn features, but they will definitely be able to enjoy the games.
So a network of multiple games that allows both for free-to-play players and people who are more interested in either getting the benefits associated with NFTs or even in investing at them at higher levels. So that would be the BitVerse, thebitverse.io, and their community is on discord.gg/bitverse. George, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me here.
And until next time, folks, remember to keep it nifty.
The